Okay, take it away.
All right, guys. So as before, the agenda is posted in the meeting chat for you to follow along. I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. We have all 5 board members present to meet quorum. I am Sarah Fotheringham, the board president.
I'm Melissa Ducker, vice president.
I'm Jaden Bowerbank, secretary.
I'm Trevor Coates, board member.
Judy Robinson, treasurer.
All right, so for our last meetings in December regarding the special assessment, Jaden took notes and he posted unofficial meeting minutes notes on Facebook, and he also emailed them to us for review. I'm going to assume everybody had time to read them and approve them, so I am going to go ahead and motion to vote for approving them.
I'll second your motion.
I will third it.
Okay.
All right, then meeting minutes are approved. So Jaden, if you could just email Gina for follow-up to have them posted to the homeowner portal.
Yep, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. And then regarding the parking update, we just got an email from Gina that there are homeowners here that want to have a conversation about their parking fines, an appeal. So if you are here for that, can you please just put your name in the chat and we'll just take it in order of the chat for the appeals. Okay, Julia, we'll go ahead and start from you with you. We'll hear your concerns and what you'd like appealed.
Yes, thank you. So on December 22nd, I had some friends coming over for dinner. They came already, it was dark, and they were kind of elderly. So I moved my car into the visitor parking to let them park in front of my condo. And when they left, I forgot to move the car back to my spot. So that's how I got the fine. I just forgot.
Okay. Is that, I believe if I remember right, that's your first parking fine, right? So it's for a total of $25.
I did have one, but I don't remember the reason for the last one. The last one probably it was my fault, but this one was on a mistake. So I forgot. It was late when they left, and I forgot to bring it back.
Okay. All right. And then Julia, is there anything else you want us to know? How we're going to handle these is we'll listen to everything and we'll also review the emails, and then we will email you either tonight or tomorrow. Does that sound good?
Thank you. Yes, yes.
Okay. And then next is Tracy.
I'm here. Sorry about that. I'm doing errands right now. Yes. I was parked in visitor. I didn't have plates on my car yet, and mom had gone to the store. Mom is 85, and I also have problems with swelling and breathing and possible heart. And so I had parked in visitor for a minute while mom went to the store. We're right in the middle of we just paid off the $274 to get my boyfriend's car out of impound, and then they found out that they ruined the transmission on the car, and now I have a fine for another $100. We're trying to do things the right way.
Sorry, can I interject here?
Rent a spot.
Is this appeal process something that we would rather do in the closed portion of the meeting?
We can.
If that is something that the people appealing would prefer, I think that's something I would also prefer for them, simply because we just generally discuss fines within that section. Tracy, how do you feel about that? Are you okay with doing this in the open section of the meeting?
I don't care. I'd rather see if we can knock it out and get the meeting for myself. I'm traveling. I'm actually in a store right now.
I think if she just wants to finish her so she can go, and then we can talk about it after, she can do that.
Fine. That'd be great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Is there anything else that you want to say?
No,
Tracy?
it's just we're dealing with the rotation of cars. I have my sister who's sick, who has spinal injury that started staying with me, and then I have my 85-year-old mom, and then I had just bought my car because on Christmas Day I had totaled my car on the freeway from a kitchen sink in the freeway, and then to find out the week before that the boyfriend's car was towed, and that was $274. And now it needs a new transmission because they messed up the transmission by tugging it out of the space.
Supposed to use a flatbed.
They should be using a flatbed if they're doing something like that instead of ruining people's transmissions. He forgot about it, being that we're going to the grocery store and stuff. We don't normally park. They tried to tow me the other day. It was like 7:00 at night.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have a way of registering the car because I have no plates on the paper plates on a car because I just barely bought it 4 days before that. So that's all I have to say. Basically, I'm still paying catch up from the HOA and the towing of his vehicle.
We won't do it again, we promise.
We won't do it again, we promise. We've been driving mom and parking on the corner, but just driving mom back and forth.
Pretty pressed on money since Christmas has came through.
We are pressed on money. We'll also have a transmission and a totaled vehicle.
Okay. Awesome. We'll talk about that and then
And
send
then
you
when I
an
tried to rent a spot, and I would be glad to rent a spot, but there's nothing available. So what do you do?
Thank you,
Yeah, I
Tracy.
think-
Is there any other reason that you think that the fine was assessed in error?
I think the fine is assessed in an error. We're trying to take care of it, trying to learn how to do a registration, to register a vehicle for visiting. And then if I'm living there, but then I can't register it if I didn't have a plate. So it's very confusing. It's not very clear. It's a lot of new stuff happening and there's a lot of stuff going on. And then, here's why I'm hearing hearsay from my 85-year-old mom that doesn't understand to even explain things correctly. So it's just, I can't afford the fine. I can,
Extra $200 for the HOAs.
well, plus the HOA going up. I'm still playing catch up from all that. And I'm not working for the last, again, during COVID. Anyway.
Okay.
I'm thinking about starting to sell my house.
Tracy, can I ask, at any point, did you receive a formal warning from the HOA? that
I have
included
never received one on my car.
Okay,
We spoke on the phone in regards to trying to figure out how to register the car and how to register it because the neighbor across the street, not realizing that by being a resident with a non-plated car, where do you park temporarily while mom goes shopping? I don't know.
yeah, so that would be something for us to note, whether a written warning was assessed to the lot owner before the fines were issued.
There was no written warning on my car. There was no sticker written warning.
Okay,
There was a conversation in regards to how do we do this that I guess we didn't understand, or I got wrong information from my 85-year-old mom.
Casey, on the first fine, when that was assessed, did Gina or anyone from HOA West contact you in any way about the first fine or any of the fines after that?
Not me, no. We talked on the phone in regards to trying to figure out, tried to send me a Facebook invite. And I, basically the Facebook invite, she wasn't able to give me an invite. Instead it was a screenshot. So I'm still not even on a Facebook invite. I did the Nextdoor app in regards to, that was easy. but so far I haven't even figured out how to do any of the things. So we haven't even taken advantage of the fact that we can have 10 days of guest parking, but and no one can explain how to do it or send a correct link that I understood how to do, which I was a property manager of a hotel for 17 years. You think I would understand. And there's nothing in writing, nothing was posted, nothing was taped at all anywhere. And then I asked for the bills for my HOA bills to come to me in writing with that, to pay the bill. And I haven't got that either.
How did you first find out you had parking fees?
I just found out the other day that the parking fees, I saw it in an email when I'm scrolling through. I mean, I'm right in the middle of trying to change my line of work and get a job again. So I'm busy.
Okay, Tracy, I want to make sure that I'm understanding you correctly. So up until very, very recently, you were unaware of any fines or any violations, and there was no communication to you by HOA West except for the email you're just referenced. Is that correct?
Right. I didn't know that there was an email or any type of fines, except for when I went to assess them and I saw the email and I started reading more, and it's $100 fine. And I don't know is there more fines than that, because I don't see a breakdown and I haven't had access to the account online.
When you say the account online, are you
Well,
talking about
well,
your
but-
homeowner portal?
Yeah, homeowner portal. I haven't gotten into a homeowner portal because the fact that in writing in homeowner portal, I don't want to get a catch-22. Instantly by signing in, you're agreeing to everything, and that's not something that I'm comfortable doing. So I would like it all in writing. And because I didn't even realize that they hadn't taken HOA fees out of my account. I didn't even realize the company switched. I was very busy and, hotel manager, 60 hours a week. And then I lost my job and there's been a lot of changes. So I didn't even know the company switched until it was like, I realized they switched, and then I went to go sign on and it's instantly agreeing if you sign in that you agree to all late fees and everything else. And I said no. So that's when I sent $1,000 in as a good faith payment to figure out how we can take care of and clear the account and get it more current. And then all this parking stuff started happening, and I'm just ready to list my house. And it's sad because I've been there since 2015 without any drama or any problems. And now this has taken over my life with having the sick sister, the 85-year-old mom. It's very hard.
I've been taking some notes, and I think that I've captured everything that I need. Does anybody else feel like they have any other questions on the board?
Just make sure, Trevor, that it's on there that we follow up with Gina and HOA West regarding communications.
Absolutely.
Someone goes on your neck.
Thank
Okay,
you, Tracy.
Okay, thanks.
Are you gonna cry?
I was crying
Why?
because it's a lot of stuff.
Hey,
going on.
Tracy,
Yes,
can you mute your microphone?
yes, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bob said in the chat, I tried to message you back, Bob. He said, I paid mine. I'm assuming you're talking about parking fines. And then you said, Sarah, I sent a separate letter on a host of issues, including parking policies. Did you send those to me or the board or to Gina?
When I paid my parking fees, I paid Q1. I have two units in Davencourt. I paid my parking fines. I paid Q1 of my HOA dues at the increased value for both units, and I paid the increased assessment for both units. I was just getting ready to send a chat. I was fine for not registering a car for an empty unit. And then
Right.
I also had, and one of those was forgiven. I also had some tenants who had just moved in and they were in the process of registering their cars. I was fine. I believe it was $10, and I've heard numbers of 25. I don't know, but that's what I was fine. So that's what I paid. I'm not worried about the $10. I don't understand why I have to register cars that are parked in my space when enforcement's my responsibility. So Sarah, using you as an example, if I park my car in one of your two spaces, seems to me you are perfectly within your rights to call, either call me if you know, hopefully we can be neighborly and say, hey, Bob, why are you in my spot? Or if we're not so neighborly, we can call a tow truck and say, that person's in my spot. I want him towed, or anything in between. I understand that. I understand if I park my car in a visitor spot without informing or requesting permission from the HOA, I understand that is a violation. I don't understand why I would have to park my car or register my car to park in one of my two spaces. I just don't, and especially when enforcement is my responsibility. Second and related, and Sarah, I did send the letter to your address, and I sent an advance copy back when I paid my dues to the HOA, HOA West. But related, you know, if you're going to unilaterally clean my spot, if I have it dirty, one of the thing that helped precipitate this whole thing with me is I had someone who was parked in my spot. They were a neighbor. I never gave you the name of the neighbor, but I subsequently realized they were changing their water pump on their car and got oil and radiator fluid all over my parking spot. So if you come along and decide to clean the spot because it's got radiator fluid and oil in it, and then send me a bill, I'm going to say, no, wait a minute, I didn't put that there. And so, you know, I think we've got an issue of who's in charge of parking enforcement and on what basis. So that's the core of my question.
Okay, so to your first point with like the differentiation between the $10 and the $25, when we did the parking adjustment at the beginning of last year, spring of last year, the fines are separate where actual towing or parking violations, so like parking on the street within the community, residents and visitor spots, things like that, those fines start at 25 and then double after that, I think to a total of 400. The $10 registration is for units that haven't registered their cars. So that's the difference there. Like you're saying, as far as like your example of parking in a spot and then being neighborly, that we have a lot of, I have a lot of homeowners that reach out to me because cars are in their spots and they don't want to just tow them. They want to try and contact the homeowner. So that's where the registration list has come into play really well, that I've been able to look that up and contact either the car owner or the landlord to have them then have the car moved. As far as if I wanted it out of my own spot, up until about 3 weeks ago, before we switched to legacy towing, individuals could not call Beehive Towing to have cars towed out of their personal spots. Homeowners or landlords would have had to have contacted a board member or HOA West that would have had to have called Beehive Towing.
Okay. Well, I don't really want to take over the meeting on parking. I don't think that's the right thing to do, but I would also say, as I understand it, those two, every unit has two parking spots that's in effect theirs. And to my way of thinking, I don't know the law, I don't know the parking law, I don't know the HOA laws in detail, but I would assume it's my parking spots, just like my personal driveway or my residence, I can enforce it, right? So but again, I paid the fine. I don't have as big an issue as the previous owner. She sounds like she has a much more significant issue. I'm just going to the greater issue is what are we trying to achieve? So that's really, I have nothing else to add. Sarah, I did send you a letter that, and I did request a reply, but we can take that offline if you like.
Was that through email, Bob?
No, because I didn't have your email address, so it's coming through snail mail. I mailed it out, let's see, today's Wednesday. I mailed it out Monday, so it should get to you in the next day or two.
Okay. Then it's fine. And just to touch on when you were talking about like the oil and the radiator and things like that, in the rules, it does say that if anything is spilled or done and whatnot, and it has to be cleaned up by the HOA, then the fine would be assessed to the unit owner. As far as I know, that has not happened at all in the last year that I have been on the board. I think I would interpret that as something that negatively impacts like the asphalt and drivability of the community.
Yeah, and I say in my letter, I agree 100% with the HOA management company that we pay to take care of the place to look for things like that. I agree with that 100%. My comment was really along the lines of, but the fine's going to go to me. And if I'm, on vacation or whatever, I don't know who parked in my spot and changed the oil. So that's where I'm trying to understand, if we're going to diligently enforce this parking situation and assign fines, basically unilaterally, to be honest about it, the HOA and the board need to be darn sure they know who's at fault for various violations.
Have you been assessed a fine for that situation?
No, not for that particular situation, but I haven't cleaned it up.
And how would you suggest that the board know for sure who did that?
I don't know. I mean, if I'm on vacation, I don't know. It's not my rule. The board.
Yeah,
made
it's
the-
not my rule either. It was already a
Well,
rule.
no, but with all due respect, you're an officer of the HOA. So it
Yes.
is your rule. It is your rule.
The
It is your
HOA is
role
all
now.
of us. Yes, it's all of us.
But you're
We're
the
all
board.
part of the HOA.
But you're the board. And so
Right.
my point is, and there's been an increased emphasis on parking lately. And like I say, look, I don't have time to argue about $10. I just don't. But what I'm saying is I don't even live there. I'm a landlord, but I've heard from a lot of folks, and the fact that we're having a special meeting on parking means it is an issue. I don't know the details of it, but we have rules. And so no disrespect, if it's a rule, it's a rule. And what I don't want to hear is, yeah, but we don't really enforce the rules, so don't worry about getting it. It's like, no, but
Right.
the rule is you can make a unilateral decision to clean that spot, which in my case, it was $39.21, and then send me a bill for the cleaning. And I understand that, but I'm just saying, make sure we know who was in that spot.
With all due respect, I am not arguing with you. I'm trying to come up with a solution because you said
Right.
we better be darn well sure of
Right.
who's at fault. And I'm asking you for a solution of how we would know. We don't have eyes on every house, how we
Right.
would know whose that was.
I agree with you. You don't have eyes on every house, and nor do I. So that's why what I'm really asking is, what are we trying to achieve with the parking rules? Who's responsible for enforcing the parking rules? Is it the HOA management company? Is it the board? Or is it the resident? And I'm
It's
okay, huh?
My answer would be it's a little bit of everything, because your individual units are not like completely privately owned. They're shared common space.
Mhm.
So that's where that overlap comes into place.
Right, but the parking spot is not common space, right? There's 2 parking spaces per unit.
They're limited common space. That's why when there's re-asphalting and stuff done, it's done for the whole community.
Understood, and we would all share equally, but I'm just saying in enforcing the fines. So to all the owners and residents, they're all to have shared responsibility, but we're not sharing the fines equally. The fines
Yeah.
are being assigned to the owners.
I think you bring up a really interesting point, Bob. If you wouldn't mind sending me your email, you can send a private message here.
Sure.
And just kind of include all of these thoughts.
Sure.
And then we can kind of take some time at a later, after this meeting to really dive into that.
Yeah, and I think that's the point. I applaud us keeping the parking spaces clean. I applaud enforcement of the parking rules, but I think what's getting confused is there's not clarity of what each part of the 3 parties being the residents. Actually, there's 4 parties. There's the owners, there's the residents, there's the board, and there's the HOA management company. So there's 4 parties involved in this discussion, and it's not crystal clear who has to do what and who has the authority to do what.
Yeah, that's yeah. I think you bring up some great points. So yeah, if you wouldn't mind sending me just your email and a private message here on
Sure.
Zoom,
Sure.
I'll email you back, and then you can kind of get all these thoughts down, and we can
Okay.
discuss them at length, so we can really address all of them.
And I just want to make sure, Bob, that I'm understanding, it's the $10 registration fine you're talking about that has been applied to you. The other situation, it's more a question is for, like, regarding unilateral in, like, who's in charge, things like that.
Well, if all of a sudden I was to get a bill, which someone's authorized, if there's excessive oil and antifreeze in my 3921 spot that I didn't put there, I know who put it there. I'm trying to be neighborly, but if all of a sudden the board or the HOAs, and I was only know because I happened to be down there doing maintenance on my unit. When I saw this, like, what are you doing to my spot? But if there's a unilateral decision to clean someone's spot, someone's going to assess a penalty, a fine, a fee, cleanup fee to the owner. And what I'm saying, so Sarah, I'm not making it personal, but let's suppose I go into your spot while you're at work and I change my oil and I get it all over your spot and leave it a mess. Well, under these rules, someone might say, oh my God, Sarah's parking spot is a mess. We got to clean it, and we're going to send Sarah a bill. Well, that's not right. I'm the one that made the mess, not you. Now you raise the other half of the questions. Well, who's monitoring this? And I think that's kind of what gets into the question of who's responsible for enforcement. Because, you were at work. You don't know who. You just know you came home from work and boom, there's a big pile of oil in your parking spot.
Her Ring doorbell would catch that.
I just responded to your email, Bob. So feel free to reach out and send me those thoughts, and we'll discuss them from there. And I would love to keep in touch about this. Thank you.
Okay, is there anybody else that is here for a parking appeal? If so, just put like your name in the chat, and you can even say like closed if you want to discuss it during the closed session. Okay, I'm going to assume that there's no one else. As far as the agenda goes, the parking update that is on there as far as like the changes and consistencies. So we had a board meeting with Gina regarding state statute and proper notice in conjunction with the CC&Rs, the way they're written. And as far as everything, all homeowners and landlords have been notified multiple times through emails from both HOA West and the board of what the parking rules are. The rules have been and are posted at the top of the Facebook page for participants on the Facebook page. They're available to all homeowners through their portal, and each entrance has posted signs that you have to drive by to enter the property. All the rules regarding parking, like Melissa mentioned a bit ago, have been the rules since at least 2014. So no actual parking rules have been changed. The only change that was made last year was the ability for homeowners to use the Google Doc for vehicles and for passes being applied through the portal versus going to HOA West. Some people had to pay for them through ACS anyhow, and then allotting each unit 10 visitor passes per month to fall in line with all Utah PUD law. All homeowners with a current email on file with HOA West and the board were emailed a copy of all the parking rules January 11th, including the update for legacy towing. The rules simplified are, as far as actual vehicle use, is residents cannot park in visitor spots at any time. Visitors between 1 and 5 a.m. need to have a visitor pass. Vehicles parked in personal spots without permission is not allowed. All vehicles parked on the street within the community, no parking zones in front or across from the dumpsters, etc., will be towed. Things that are changing is that we have discussed moving away from the parking violations in conjunction with getting towed, because like we've discussed tonight, the fines have not been beneficial in any way, shape, or form all the way around. So parking violation stickers will not be placed on vehicles without passes from 1 to 5 a.m. That'll just be an automatic tow for negligence in regards to receiving a parking pass. And we are now contracted with Legacy Towing. And like I explained to Bob earlier, that now affords homeowners the opportunity to call direct to them to have a car towed from their personal spot, which was not an option for them before. And residents are able to still use the Google Doc, and they're in charge of using it to register their cars and to issue parking passes for their visitors. So that's the parking update. And then of course, with the homeowners we've spoken with tonight, we will email you back either tonight or tomorrow with decisions and conclusions and options as far as the fees and fines go. So on the agenda, next is the snow update, Jaden.
Really quick, do we have any questions or comments related to those parking changes? Okay, Annika Holloway has asked, is Legacy Parking going to be monitoring the lot at night?
Yes.
Okay. Anybody else? So yeah, they will be monitoring at night from 1 to 5. Anyone that has not put in a visitor pass, this is something I think it's important to reiterate. We're not putting warning stickers on cars anymore. This is something that not all of the board agrees with, but that is the enforcement as we are going to do from now on. That should be well understood, as well as residents parking in visitor parking during the day. There will not be warning. You may just be directly towed for those violations.
Not just during the day, at any time.
At any time, right. Okay.
So you cannot even park for a few hours. So in my case, I did it for these elderly people because I didn't want them to walk in snow or ice, since the visitor park was a little far away available. So that's why I moved mine and says, okay, for a few hours, and then I'll park it back on my spot. So even for that, but then I forgot to bring it back. So no, even a couple hours, if you have any visitors, for their kindness of not letting them walk on the ice or on the snow, just to make it easy to come to the house. So would you take that in consideration?
Julian, when you say take that in consideration, are you talking about like for the rules as a whole?
Yeah, for my case, so it was supposed to be only a few hours when they were there visiting, but then I honestly forgot to drive it back into my parking spot. So it's now that I wanted to use the visa parking because I didn't need to for the night. So it was just for a few hours while they were there, but then I forgot to bring it back to my spot. So if you can take that in consideration.
Sarah,
Uh-huh.
I feel like if we start letting people park in visitor parking for even a couple of hours, we end up right back where we started a year and a half ago. So if you're going to park in visitor parking, you need a pass.
Yeah, so regarding the parking rules, like I stated a second ago, the only thing that has changed since at least 2014 is the Google Doc and the 10 passes per unit. So that is something that we can discuss. If we want to discuss changing the verbiage of the parking rules, we can do that. There are checks and balances that have to be done along the way, but it's definitely something that can be discussed. Bob asked in the chat, another issue the board should consider: who is responsible for damage to a towed car, Legacy Towing or the HOA board? Is this specifically covered in the contract with Legacy Towing? So from what I understand, Bob, when you go to get your car from the impound lot, you sign paperwork to get that car released to you. And I am assuming that part of that release is assuming that you're taking the vehicle as is. Once Legacy touches your car, it is its own entity. We are not responsible for the car. We're not responsible for the tow. That is an issue between the vehicle owner and Legacy. Laura said, I apologize for being late. Is it the board members who report violations or Legacy towing? It's actually a combination of everything. We've had people that have reported for their own spots. We have had people report for other parking violations. I have reported somebody who was parked in the grass. So it just depends on the situation. And then Legacy Towing does monitor the property, and they are responsible for issuing things, especially for the visitor parking between 1 to 5 a.m. for the vehicles that don't have visitor passes.
And just to touch back on, I'm sorry, I believe Julia, I'm not great at pronunciation here.
Yeah.
In that case, no, you cannot move into visitor parking under these rules and under this enforcement. You may be towed. You need to have your visitors park in visitor. You need to stay parked in resident or move out onto the street under these rules.
So, but if I have someone come and visiting me during the day, they can park in the visitor spot with no problem, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. So up to 10 p.m. at night, right?
1 a.m.
1 a.m. Okay. So in my case, we swapped parking spots. So I let my visitors park in front of my condo because it was easy for them to come in the home, and I parked in their place in the visitor spot. And and I would have, of course, parked back into my spot as soon they left. So basically, it was a swap of vehicles, me in the visitors and them in my spot. So doesn't really matter. So it's either them there or here, so vice versa. So my fault was that I forgot to move the car back into my spot when they left. And so past 1 a.m. in the morning, of course, I was in violation. But I don't think it does not matter if I have a visitor during the day. If I wanted to park in my spot and I park in the visitor for those hours, that should make any matter.
Julie, I understand what you're saying, and we'll definitely, like I said, we'll discuss everything with your appeal and get back to you. I think parking is a very easily enticing rule to be broken for residents to park in visitor spots, because now where there are so many where for the majority of the visitor spots where they're open and they are not spread evenly through the neighborhood, it's easy to see a visitor spot as a resident, whether it's for whatever reason, a third car in your situation, whatnot, to park in it and think that it's cut and dry. But it kind of goes back to like what Bob was talking about unilaterally applying rules to the neighborhood. And as the rules are written now, residents cannot park in visitor parking spots. And the biggest reason is because we spill into the Lehigh PUD laws, where we have to afford 1 visitor spot per every 3 units. And that's why they can't be occupied by residents. But again, if the board as a whole wants to discuss changing the verbiage, we can do that.
So, but you understand what I'm trying to say?
Yes.
So,
yes.
So it's my action was to make my visitor, easy access to the condo. And so it does not matter which car is parked as long as within those hours. And then you switch it back to your parking spot. So it's just a switching. I'm not abusing the visitor parking. I'm just giving them my spot and I park in the spot. So that's it. So it's not abusing it.
It's like breaking the rule, because the rule is you can never park your resident car in visitor. That's the rule. Like, we get what you're saying, like we're just swapping, but you were in violation when you put your car in the visitor spot, and that's why there was the fine.
I only speak for myself here. This is something that I do rather agree with. Kind of the no warning towing during the day is something that I've been opposed to, and that's obviously the board can disagree with each other, and that's fine. You know, there's situations where somebody is visiting someone else in the community where they're legitimately a visitor in a visitor spot for somebody else's house. For reasons like that, I would personally, I understand what you're saying, and personally, I'd like to change the verbiage. But just at this time, as we have it right now, nope, do not put your resident car into any visitor parking ever.
Julie or Laura said, would it not be appropriate to notify Julia or a resident of an impending tow to give her a chance to move her car? I think that's a very varied conversation to have. Are you expecting like me to notify her at 2 a.m. or is it like, there are so many variables that go into notifying them. I'm not 100% sure what you're asking. And if so, who are you asking to do that notification?
Are you asking me?
No, I was just reading Laura's comment. Julia, you're fine. And then Elise just said, like Sarah mentioned, I would love for the verbiage to be revisited. We can definitely discuss that and we can propose that to each other as a board. And then if we come to a conclusion on what the verbiage should say, then we would do what we did last year where everyone would be notified and noticed of a special meeting for verbiage change. It would have all the changes in it. And then we would have a special meeting where it would be a meeting just for the amendment. Homeowners would be able to come and give their thoughts and their opinions and their perspectives, and then it would be voted on by the board at the end of that meeting. If it passes, then homeowners would get an email with an action date. So like a date that says this is what it's going to be moving forward. It would be amended to the CCNRs and amended on the homeowner portal. So that's the long way we get there. Definitely doable because we've done it before.
Sarah, Elise said, if a board member is calling the tow truck, can they not also send a text to the owner or parking enforcement? And you guys, I hate towing and I hate fines, but I'm going to be real honest here. I could tell you till I'm blue in the face, but I've literally talked about parking for over 100 hours. Like parking hurts my head. And it's really tricky to make things equal for all the homeowners when you start adding in, well, this person got a call and this person got a fine waived and this person, it's just like been really, that's the hardest part for me. I think about parking because I want to give everyone every option, but it takes a whole lot of time and it starts to make things not equal. And I've had a really hard time with that. So I'm not saying we're not going to talk about it. I'm just saying it's been talked about a lot and it's really hard. It's not as cut and dry as you'd think it would be. That's all.
Yeah, I think a lot of really good points are being brought up. And I would just tend to agree that there have been improvements, obviously, with some parking enforcement. And I think that there's a lot more room for improvement as well. So we appreciate the input, and I think that that'll factor into our conversations moving forward.
Trevor, can I just say one thing real quick? All of us don't know every car in this complex. So if I call in a tow and I don't know who the car belongs to, are they asking the community to hold up that's a question I have. How far does the community want me to go to find that person that owns the car?
So Laura, what you said, like if a board member spends 3 hours to report one violation, as I was told by the towing company, why wouldn't they send 2 minutes sending a text to the resident? Do you remember, Laura, when I reached out to Beehive Towing and forwarded you the email from them stating that it wasn't reported by the board and that that's not the situation that took place? I have personally, when people have reached out to me, that there have been people parked in their spots, and sometimes this is at like 2 a.m. I wake up at 2 a.m. I look to see what I can find. If there is a registered car and there are phone numbers, I at 2 a.m. am making phone calls and sending text to try and help people out. And I will be very honest, when I read how simple these rules are, I am very frustrated with the ability for people to follow them, because I am shouldering the brunt of that by trying to correct it as best I can for everyone. And like Melissa was stating, I'm not always available at 2 a.m. or 11 p.m. or 6 a.m. on a Friday night, like whatever it is. And so in those situations where I have been reached out to by homeowners, I have done my due diligence and done my best to find out if they are registered vehicles and if there's associating phone number or email. And I have done what I can when I'm available and when people reach out to me. But like Melissa was saying, there are so many moving parts with parking that I think solutions are easily thought of, but the ramifications on how they affect other parts of the enforcement and other parts of the rules are not easily recognized. So yeah, we can definitely talk about it. Jaden has said that, you know, him personally, he would like to revisit the verbiage, and that's something that we can do. But as of right now, the way they are stated and the way they are and have been for years need to be followed and enforced as written. All last year, multiple emails have been sent out regarding towing, both by HOA West and the board. Everybody has to drive past the rules to enter the home. It is landlord's responsibility to notify their tenants of what the rules are. We made a different contract with Legacy Towing to allow homeowners to contact them when they have a car parked in their resident spot. And I am willing to talk about the verbiage, but I will be honest, I'm not willing to do more work than I'm already doing as far as reaching out when I can to help people when I can, because it is way too much to ask of me to do that, especially continually.
Okay, are we hopping on over to, what are we on? Snow?
Yes.
Let's see, Sam had another question. He said, so do I still need to do an appeal for my renters, appeal for my fines for my renters?
He's saying that because I told him we just announced that we're doing away with fines. Yeah, we would still like to hear your appeal, Sam. You can wait till the meeting's over and do it with us, or now. It's up to you.
I can go right now if you don't mind.
Yeah,
So
go.
my only thoughts are, my fine was for 3 different occasions. Obviously, I feel like if a violation happens, it should be immediately, you know, dealt with right away if that's what's the case. But if we're doing away with fines, that's fantastic. I think towing people's car is great. I don't ever liked it. When I lived in the neighborhood, I never liked it when someone parked in my spot. So my input would be there should just be a tow number that people can call and they get towed. That's the penalty for parking in the wrong spot. That's for not following parking guidelines. I get that. But my renters told me, hey, they got towed, they got booted, they paid those penalties. And then I also got fined for the 3 different occasions without being, you know, warned or told beforehand. And so I felt like tacking on 3 violations is an excessive thing for my appeal. And so I think if you want to charge me for one of the occasions and then the other 2 you can waive, or if you are throw my mercy out there for all 3 to be waived, you know, but I just thought if I would have been warned the first time when they had violated, I would have told them, and I would have told them not to do that again. But now they're also telling me, hey, we also paid the towing, the booting. And so in all honesty, is if that's enough coverage, if the tow company is happy that they're making money off of towing our cars, when people violate, I think that's plenty, but obviously, just hoping to get those violations waived.
Yeah. So Sam, we just signed a contract with Legacy, and up until like a few weeks ago, and up until then, homeowners couldn't like call in their own tow. And then what else did you say? Oh, also like with Beehive, they don't boot cars. So I don't know what that's about, but that doesn't affect us or you. And so we'll definitely talk about your appeal and the fines and then email you tonight or tomorrow. Does that
Okay.
work?
That's great. Thanks.
Awesome.
Sorry, I just
Thank
jumped
you.
on.
No,
I'm here
you're
in
great.
Florida, so the sooner I
We-
can.
We were told you're fine. Enjoy your trip.
Thank you so much. Have a great.
See ya.
All right, so Bob said, can the police be called and have the civic authorities put a fine on the windshield for illegal parking versus unregistered in their spot? He says to kick it to the experts who work around the clock, 3 fines or whatever their policy is, results in a tow or a boot or similar. It's also answered in there, but because the HOA is private property, it's not a police matter, it's a civil matter. And so the laws that we're following as far as towing goes are all related to Lehigh law and Utah towing law on private property. So that includes things like signage. For Lehigh patrol towing, there's an entire section of law that I suggest people read about your rights if your car is picked up by a patrol in Utah. Things like it limits costs, etc. But again, it's because it's private property, it's treated legally as private property.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So with now snow falling on the cars at night and having all the, the windshields and all the windows covered by snow, you cannot really see the parking permit, especially the people that pay for the parking. And so the patrolling person cannot see the parking permit and might think that's the car is in violation. So do they have license plates of the people who are paying the parking for parking?
So there's 2 parts to that. So I'm assuming you're talking, Julia, you're talking about just regular visitor spots, not the.
No, I'm talking about the one I'm paying.
Oh, well, that
So the one I
covers.
pay, and I have the little sign by the mirror, by the windshield. So, to show that this is my parking and I'm paying for it. But with snow falling and covering the car entirely during the night, and the person patrolling says, oh, there is this car you parked. Why is this park legal or not? And they don't know because they cannot see the parking permit. So does the patrolling person have a list of all the cars who pay for parking?
We have made those lists, I believe, available. If not, we'll definitely make sure that they are.
Right, because they won't be able to see.
Right. Sarah, did you have a comment there?
I was just trying to differentiate, like if we're talking about the passes for visitors 1 to 5 a.m. or the rentable ones. The rentable ones have the sign parked in front of the car, and the Legacy Towing also has a map of where those are. So those are viewed basically as personal spots. The only time a car is towed from those spots is if the person renting them reaches out to either the board, HOA West, or the towing company themselves.
So again, my question, who's patrolling the parking and looked at the parking sign and cannot see the parking permit in the car?
Julie, we don't issue parking permits for inside the car.
No, I do have a parking sign right by my mirror and by my window shield that shows that this is my parking that I'm paying every month.
Where did you get that?
What's her name? Michelle? No.
So you went down to HOA West and got that?
Yeah. So I'm paying for the parking. So I got the sign. I got 2 signs, one for both cars in case we're switching. So I'm paying for the parking. And so they gave me this parking permit to put by my car, by the by the windshield, by the mirror, okay, to hang there. So it is mine because I'm paying. So my question was, who is when someone patrols the parking and sees a car parked in the parking for payment, but cannot see the parking permit, how do they determine that car is parked illegally? Because they cannot see the parking permit. So my question is, does the patrol person have a list of all the cars who are paying for parking? And so because they cannot see the parking permit.
Okay,
Because of the snow.
right. So the fact that you got a pass to hang on your mirror is news to at least me. I don't know about the other board
Oh,
members.
really?
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
gonna say, I've
Really?
seen those
Oh, no,
passes.
you
I believe
might want to
HOA
talk to
West has talked to
Michelle.
them. Yeah, talked
Yeah.
about them.
I have a parking permit, yes, with the number of the parking and the match.
Yeah, I knew that there were the 6 rentable spots throughout the community, and that if you wanted to rent them, you contact HOA West. And if there's one available, you get one, and if not, you get put on a waiting list. And
Waiting
they're-
list, yeah.
Yeah, and they're
exactly.
rentable for 6 months at a time. I was not aware in
Yeah.
any way, shape, or form from anyone from HOA West that there was a tangible pass put in your
Yeah.
car.
There
My
is,
answer, yeah,
yeah.
my answer to you is you do not need to worry about the snow. I will be emailing Gina tonight about this. And the reason you don't need to worry about the snow is because when Legacy Towing goes through the community, they have a list of who has a pass and not, and that's the
Okay.
only list they work off of.
Okay, so you guys know that I have parking that I'm paying. So, but yes, I do have, you'll come and see it tomorrow.
Yeah, yeah.
It's right by the window, so you can see it, but then, if it snows, you cannot see it, so.
All right. Okay, so in the chat, Jess, it's unfortunate that an entire hour has been devoted to parking. A topic has been discussed countless times. I have a prior engagement and have to drop. Have a good night, everyone. Thank you, board. Thanks to Jaden from Bob. And then Elise, my husband was picking me up down the street from a neighbor's house because it was snowing and he was scared to get out of his car to knock on the door because a car was circling the neighborhood slowly and obviously taking pictures of cars. And we had already gotten warnings for leaving our car for less than 5 minutes to drop our, I've got to scroll down, drop our daughter off at the sitter. What is your solution to this? What do I do when I'm dropping my 1-year-old off on the other side of the loop in the snow? No double parking and no visitor parking. So what should I even do in that situation? Do I need to walk her over in dumping snow and freeze, drop her off, walk back to my home and get in my car to leave? I'm just shocked that I got a warning within those 5 minutes. I was leaving her with the neighbor. So I'm assuming, I got to read that again. I'm assuming you were parked in a visitor spot dropping your daughter off. Am I understanding that correctly?
No, she was just on the street. And I said, you're allowed to like load and unload. So I said underneath there, just throw your hazards on, try to be quick about it. I mean, if somebody had enough time, did you get a sticker warning? I don't know if somebody had enough time to do that. I don't know. Just, I would throw your hazards on and just not take too much time because you can load and you can park on the street and load and unload.
So again, like, sorry, go ahead, Sarah.
I was just going to say, just to be clear, she means street, like within the neighborhood, not the outside.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, so again, like Jaden said, per current enforcement and how we're doing that, you can't, right? Like you will be in violation immediately. And so in that situation, you're under all the eligible warning
You're in violation
stipulations.
for what?
What's that?
You're in violation for doing what?
If you're on the street or if you're in visitor parking how it's currently being enforced.
It says in the rules that you can, unless you're loading or unloading.
And so that's a good question. So in this case, I guess without any further information, but I would say to be on the safe side where people don't know, how does parking enforcement distinguish between loading and unloading and just parking on the street? So I would say for the community to be on the safe side at this point to not do it at all. Otherwise, there's that danger.
And the rules also mention loading and unloading materials. I mean, by approved vendors. That seems to me to be, mostly about if you're having a contractor over or something similar where you're unloading or moving and things like that. Like loading and unloading from the street. As far as this situation where, again, it's kind of someone within the community is driving their car and visiting someone else in the community. Right now, yes, that's currently against the rules, right? And again, she's not unloading material. She's, dropping off her daughter instead.
Baby, that's
So yeah,
Right,
so she
right.
responded exactly with the verbiage that I was reading. There is no solution for dropping her off. Someone got a picture of my car in those 5 minutes. Yeah, like I said, I think that there is no solution currently. And so that's something that I agree, I think does need to be addressed.
And that's something that I've thought about too. If somebody that's mobility impaired wants to visit somebody that's at the top of the loop, they wouldn't be able to currently drive their car without a little bit of musical chairs as far as moving cars out to the street and things like that. So I do think there's a lot that we should adjust either with enforcement and or verbiage in that sense.
Jaden, hurry and talk about snow.
Okay.
No, really, is there anything else about parking that anybody has?
Bob says, let's see, never mind. That's a message to me. I'll get back to you, Bob, later. Yeah, if there's nothing else, as far as the snow update, we have changed contractors for our snow removal. We are now working with Aeroscape for that. I hope everyone has had a good experience with that. If you've not, please let us know. We're currently new with this vendor. With this vendor, and the very wet snow, the very wet winter season, we are currently looking at a very large cost for snow removal. Something that the board has discussed and will continue to discuss is reducing those costs as much as we can. And meeting with them to make sure that they are doing really standard amounts of the snow removal. Is there any comments related to the snow removal? Any issues that people have had? Looks like Julia.
Yeah, so it's good that we remove the snow, but I think we should remove the ice because in all my life, I had never seen so much ice build up. I mean, really clear, pure ice on the street like here. And I have fallen once where I hit my head, and I wear snowshoes. I mean, good traction and everything, but with this clear ice, I cannot see it over the black asphalt. And and I take walks in the morning, and even with my bright headlight, I cannot distinguish if it's just the asphalt or is the ice. And I almost fell a couple more times. So I think the need of spreading the ice melt is really critical to avoid this ice build up.
Yeah, that's something that we'll pass on to them. It looks like at the moment I went out today and they had placed out quite a bit of ice melt, probably more ice melt than they really needed to. So that's something that we'll be addressing with them as well.
Yeah.
Thank you for that comment.
Yes, thank you.
All
Okay.
right, then with just Trevor, a real quick garbage rule reminder with the new year.
Yes, let me have it in the chat here just so everybody can see it again. So yeah, I just sent out the garbage rules in the chat. So if you haven't seen those in a while, go ahead and check up on those. So essentially, if you have boxes from Amazon, break them down. If you have garbage, put it in a trash bag. That's kind of the simple way to say it. You can see the fees and the fines there at the bottom. There's a couple reasons why this is in place. And one of the biggest that pertains to the community is that if we have large items, awkward items, or trash outside the dumpsters, it costs money to clean it up. So anytime something like that happens, the community's money is going to it. So if somebody dumps, for example, we had cabinets out by the dumpster number 4 here on the southeast corner. Somebody has to come pick that up, and that comes out of community funds. So that's something that I am very supportive of. Is we want to keep that from not happening. So yeah, like I said, break the boxes down, bag the trash. If you have something awkward, please reach out to me. I have a truck, so I'm gonna put that out. Don't abuse me, but I would love to keep trash from piling up around the dumpsters, and to keep us from wasting community funds on something as superfluous as that. If there are any questions, please let me know.
Trevor?
I do have a comment. So right where across the circle, where I live, so there is a dumpster, and a few times we found a garbage bag open with all the garbage out. So it was not an animal that attacked the garbage bag and broke it. So clearly, someone who brings the garbage bag and doesn't tie it and leave it right next to the garbage dump, it's bound to spill over and spill off the garbage. So if you don't want to throw it in the garbage dumpster and you want to leave it there, at least make sure that it's tight so the garbage doesn't come out. Because I can understand sometimes it's a heavy garbage bag, and someone that may not reach over to the inside to throw it. So, but at least make sure that it's tight, because many times we already picked up garbage for other people who left it open. So.
Thank you, Juliana. Yeah, definitely please tie your bags, because especially during windy days, it'll blow the garbage out even if it's in the trash. And yeah, if you're having trouble getting it into the dumpster, again, please hit me up. I would love to help out with that.
And yes, I've seen a lot of big items left outside the dumpster. So no, it's not acceptable.
The other thing I just want to add to that is with fine schedule for the garbage rules, where it's a new year, we start fresh with warnings first and then moving on to the fines. So then the leaf removal.
Okay, so before we switched over to Aeroscape, we were with Boulder, and all the we lost our we got rid of our contract with Boulder, all the leaves fell, and then we got Aeroscape. So Boulder didn't clean up those leaves. Aeroscape proposed a bid of $2,800 to remove the leaves. The board unanimously voted to get the leaf removal done on January 12th. And now you have way less leaves in your yard. That's the update.
Wonderful.
Okay. Another comment. So what I was talking earlier about the garbage. So maybe put a sign to say, tie your garbage bags if you leave it on the side, so garbage doesn't spill out. So
we're working on signs right now, but
like
if you leave your bag on the side, you're in violation of garbage. Yeah. So definitely hit Trevor up if you want help getting your garbage in trash. And yes, signs are being worked on.
Yeah, I will come and help you throw those bags in the dumpster all day. Do not even worry about it.
So how are you gonna send the fine? Are you gonna find the person who left the garbage bag right there? How are you gonna issue the fine?
I mean, if somebody sees somebody do it, or they have their name in the bag, but we don't really. I don't know. I feel like we're spending a lot of time on what ifs.
So
it's just don't leave your garbage on the side of the trash.
Exactly, a sign, something like that.
Yeah, it looks like Annie Bernard is asking, how do we enforce the rules? Essentially, all rules are enforced by homeowner, including us, reaching out to the management company and reporting violations. First, people will receive warnings. This is again in all our rules. They'll receive warnings, and then if there are further violations, then they will receive fines according to our rules. So it's all done through, as far as fines go, it is all done through homeowner reporting.
Well, I do have a comment. I got someone saying that I left a dresser next to the dumpster, and you guys contacted me and said, this is not my dresser. I did not leave it there. So someone accusing someone of doing something that hasn't done it. So how can you, take that person's word as a true word? Because I said, this is not my dresser. It was not me who put it there.
Just take a picture, just get some picture evidence, and that's all we can ask for. It just to help our neighborhood be clean.
Right, so
That's it.
All right, so as far as the agenda goes, even though we've kind of been doing it all along the way, it's the portion for homeowner questions and comments that were not associated with any of the topics that were discussed today.
Sorry, I'm new here, so really quick on the snow removal. When is it the owner's responsibility to remove the snow, and then when is it like the HOA?
That's a
Am I-
great question that I should have answered. So for your porch and your walk up, that is your responsibility. Currently, the HOA is covering the sidewalks and then the street.
So if the sidewalks weren't like taken care of a couple days ago, that wasn't our responsibility. They should have been like the snow removal.
Right.
folks.
So the snow
Okay.
removal comes out after a certain amount of accumulation. Sometimes they'll miss it and need to be basically called out by us. But it looks like Sarah, you had a comment there.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, like, per our contract, like you just stated, it's a 1 inch threshold. So if it snows under 1 inch, they don't come out and do the streets or the sidewalks.
You're also in charge of shoveling like your numbered spots.
Right. Right.
Like not the whole, like, but like to make sure that your number is visible.
Okay.
Are there any other homeowner comments or questions?
I think that's it.
Okay, then we will go ahead and adjourn this meeting. And if you, we will end the edit here as far as the recording goes. And if you are not a board member, if you can leave, and thank you for being here tonight.
thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Yeah.